Once again, your turn, hashtag Undisputed Live. Here we go. First tweet from David. Cowboy fans, after the Cowboys failed to make the Super Bowl again next season, it's been 84 years. That's Old Rose from the Titanic. 84 years. That's what you're trying to do to me, right? That.
No, you're not. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Well, if you get to 84, Skip, and y'all hadn't won the Super Bowl,
at this rate, there's no way I get to 84. All right, second tweet's from Mr. Happy. Keyshawn trying to convince Cowboy fans Mike McCarthy is the answer. Steve Buscemi, I see no problem here, with eyes going sideways. I see no problem here.
I'm going to convince y'all at some point.
You see no problem.
This next year, y'all going to calm down and take it one game at a time, as I've been trying to tell y'all all year.
Yeah, right. You picked him to go to the Super Bowl. All right. From Seabad, third tweet, Keyshawn trying to get through to Skip. Your brain.
Yeah, you got to use your brain, man.
Your brain.
Yeah, I know you need certain things to operate your brain, but you're missing a lot at times.
No, it's really good. It's unfortunately, it's a runaway brain right now. Okay, we got to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. Can't wait for this one. Last week, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, in complimenting the Rams receivers, took a shot at Baker Mayfield by saying, now, if you give that Tampa group a good quarterback, that's a good group. Baker didn't exactly fire back yesterday. He just said Gardner-Johnson should watch more film because Gardner-Johnson had included Russell Gage with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in that Tampa group, and Gage was lost for the season during the preseason. Baker also complimented Gardner-Johnson, calling him a really good player who's been impactful everywhere he's been. True and true. So, Keyshawn, did you like the way Baker handled this?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. He killed him, K-I-L-T, with some intelligence and wit and kind of just, tongue-in-cheek.
It wasn't typical Baker, I got to tell you.
Well, that is good, though.
Usually you try to K-I-L-L him.
You don't need to go back and forth with a guy that's only played 4 games, week 1, week 2, week 18 in a wild card game. Clearly, if you're mentioning somebody that was put on IR and Russell Gage back in August, you probably want to look at the scouting report a little bit closer.
Yeah.
But maybe he has a relationship with Russell Gage and want to throw his name in there or something along those lines. And I think he's wrong about where Baker is today. Not where he was yesterday and not where he's going to be tomorrow, but where he is today. And what I mean by that is, Skip, the guy balled out this past week against Philadelphia.
He did.
To no return. He balled out. And I understand Detroit beat them early in the year, and Baker didn't have a good game. They lost 20-6, and he was, 19-37 for a little bit over 200 yards and no touchdowns. That's fine. That was
By the way, Todd Bowles said yesterday, we're a very different team than we were that day.
I just said.
All right.
That's why I said, don't think about tomorrow and don't think about yesterday, but think about today. Where are they at? Where are they at today?
Yep.
And based on what I saw against the Philadelphia Eagles, now, mind you, a lot of the 2 of the 3 touchdowns were catch and runs, but he had to deliver the football to the receivers and sync to be able to catch and run. The other one was a blitz that came and he kind of, threw it up, and it was a punt that the defender Maddox got turned around.
He did.
But it worked. He gets the credit for that. He got the ball out of his hands. He put it in an area where only his guy could catch it.
Yep.
You have to applaud that. Now, as I tried to tell you and Richard before, even yesterday, no matter what he does, he's not going to get the credit. I tried to tell y'all that. Yeah, you're crazy, kid. I'm like, man, they not. They just, people aren't going to, because there's this stigma about him as he is a game manager. He's just a guy, which means a jag. Okay, he's just a guy. That's all he is. That is where people have already signed off on him as being, which is wrong. But because what they're doing, Skip, is they're looking at Cleveland. They're looking at Carolina, the end of Cleveland, by the way. Not the beginning, not the playoff, but at the end. They moved on from him. So it's like, well, you moved on from the #1 pick overall. In 4 years, you got rid of the guy? that means he can't play.
Yep.
It means he's this, he's that. So he carries that with him to Tampa Bay, despite his stops in Carolina and with the Los Angeles Rams and Sean McVay and doing what he did for the Rams when he just walked in and all of a sudden it looked like, oh my God, he's going to replace Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
People can't get out of their minds what he did healthy in Cleveland. Only thing they think about is what he did bad in Cleveland and what he did bad in Carolina. So it's going to stay with him throughout his entire career, even if he moves on and gets a Daniel Jones, a little bit more type extension. People are going to say, well, they really didn't give him a whole lot of money. They only gave him a one-year deal. That's the way they're going to treat him from here on out in his career.
Yep.
No matter what he does,
Agreed.
I promise you,
No,
they're going to treat him that way.
Okay.
And is that right? No. But that's how people are, man.
Okay.
They think like that.
They do. And they will, and they always will when it comes to this guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he is so polarizing.
Well, he hadn't been polarizing anymore. He kind of calmed down a little bit.
Thank you. That's the point. That was the point yesterday. Dare I say Baker Mayfield showed some maturity yesterday? I've never used that word in relation to Baker Mayfield, but I thought he checked himself and he said really nice things about C.J. Gardner-Johnson because he is right. C.J.'s a really good football player to me because when he was in New Orleans, he made key plays at key moments. When he was with the Eagles last year, he really helped them. They missed him this year because he makes big plays at big moments. He will help Detroit now that he's back and healthy. He gives them another sort of secondary weapon they have not had. But he just weaponized Baker also because I think he will light even more of Baker's fire because Baker will compete with you. He looks forward to competing, and he will compete under the brightest lights at the highest level because I've seen him have really big, good games. Back in his Cleveland days, all of his best games came against the Baltimore Ravens. Go look him up. All of his 300 and even 400-yard games came against Lamar and Baltimore. Sometimes Lamar was hurt.
So maybe, now that you mentioned that, it turned on a light in my head.
Yep.
Maybe he's Eli Manning. Maybe he's Eli Manning. If you think about it, now that you said it, big games in Baltimore, you even go to the Kansas City playoff game, he had Kansas City on the ropes.
He did.
They were scared to death. It took a fourth down conversion. I think it was either third or fourth down conversion by, the backup quarterback. Chad Henne.
Henne given Sunday, right?
To win that game.
Right.
I just thought about it when you said it.
No.
And now, in his first playoff appearance since the Cleveland days, he went out there and did pretty well for himself.
And remember, he started Mike T's slide in Pittsburgh because he went to Pittsburgh for their first playoff game since 1994, Cleveland's.
So maybe
he was really good in that game. And he is now 2-1 in the postseason, counting the game the other night. And obviously, Lamar is still 1-3. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. And my guy Dak is 2-5. So
maybe he's Eli Manning. Maybe he's Joe Flacco.
Hey, maybe. So I kind of liked the way he carefully responded. He nicely responded because now the advantage stays with him.
Yeah, no, there's no need to get into a war of words when it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what I would tell Baker, you know the way you played against Philadelphia. There's no need to get into a war of words with Johnson. It's just okay.
No.
If that's how you feel, we know who the quarterback is, and we know the production that the receivers had, and we know who's throwing the football.
Yeah. And by the way, Baker knows he's playing from a position of strength because that Tampa defense, Richard got me fired up yesterday when he was breaking it down because they've all been there and done this before, right?
Yeah, some of them have, absolutely, if not all of them.
A bunch of them have. And they are suddenly healthy and playing at a very high level that they weren't playing at that first time.
Yeah, I'm taking Detroit, though.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to just get that out the way now.
Well, I'll get it out of the way. I'm taking Baker.
Okay.
Shake and bake, baby. Okay, up next, we got to get back one more time today to the Dallas Cowboys because Dan Quinn is interviewing all over the countryside. So how big a loss would Dan Quinn be for the Cowboys?
According to you, it doesn't matter.